So just to give you an idea of kind of one of the stories that we like to read, I have Welcome by Sergio Giovini. Babette was a puppy who lived with her mommies. She had lots of toys to play with. She has a comfy place of her own to sleep. She was given many hugs, kisses, and treats. Whenever Babette went for a walk, people would stop to say what a cute dog she was. Oh, what a cute little girl.
I would have been so happy to have this when I was a kid.
One morning after breakfast, Babette went to her favorite pillow to take a nap. When she got there, she discovered a white puppy sleeping on her comfy pillow.
I felt different from everyone else in like the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade. I knew I wasn't like the other boys. Didn't know why. I didn't know why people were making fun of me, but I knew I was different. And so that's a big reason why I've done story hours, to show not just children, but adults, anyone who comes, that you can be anything. And it's okay to be anything and everything.
We'll always prioritize spaces for children because it is Children's Story Hour. We understand that adults need those spaces too. They didn't have the support when they were younger to be themselves, and now they're healing from that.
We love you both very much, said her moms. Look at that.
Storytelling is essential to the human experience. From fairy tales to mythology, it's been used to pass down messages, ideas, and beliefs. But it's also been used as a tool to pass down misinformation for personal and political gain. PolitiFact, an American nonprofit established in 2007, and other journalist organizations specialize in fact-checking statements by politicians, candidates, and interest groups. Their work highlights how misinformation is frequently weaponized by both sides of the political spectrum to influence public opinion. And these include many false claims about the LGBTQ+ communities. And this is how Drag Story Hour, an organization which started as a way to promote reading comprehension and identity acceptance to kids, became the focus of an ideological divide.
At the Adams Morgan Community Center in Washington, D.C. recently, parents and their tiny tots sat patiently, riveted by a storybook and its reader.
He shuffled into Bear's room.
Drag Story Hour was falsely accused of hosting sexually explicit performances in front of children, resulting in real-world consequences like threats and doxing. This video posted online by the right-wing group Turning Point USA shows members confronting an Arizona State University professor, David Boyles, a co-founder of Drag Story Hour. The clip ends with the professor pushing the camera, portraying him as aggressive.
You would like to see a different America exist where little boys are sodomized by people like you, right? Hey!
But another angle from police surveillance footage shows a different context. Following the attack, ASU President Michael Crow condemned Turning Point and further emphasized the need to protect faculty from their watch lists that claim that these professors discriminate against conservative students. The two members of Turning Point USA later admitted to assaulting the professor and agreed to enter a diversion program, a form of pretrial sentencing to remedy behavior and allowing them to avoid convictions. The framing and editing of Turning Point's video were intended to elicit an emotional reaction from viewers, and this provoked threats to groups like Arizona Drag Story Hour, who had to adapt for safety. And for this reason, AZPM could not film a Drag Story Hour reading due to concerns that participants would face threats.
It was about 5 minutes to start to where we were informed of the bomb threat, and at that moment in time, we needed to keep our audience safe. I needed to keep my people safe. We had to regroup and we had to look at the different avenues of safety and security, which we've been doing for the last year.
My partner also volunteers with Drag Story Hour, and last year there were a few months there where things were pretty bad. Things were very heightened as far as the threats and the harassment and things that we were getting. And there were times that we would have to discuss, okay, well, do we both go to this event? What if something happens?
Violence against marginalized communities, LGBTQ+, immigrants, and racial minorities is rising with the increase of hate speech, leaving vulnerable communities at even greater risk. In 2022, anti-LGBTQ hate crimes surged, with reports based on sexual orientation rising by nearly 14%, and those based on gender identity seeing a 33% jump. Just a year earlier, in 2021, about 16% of hate crimes were targeted due to their sexual orientation.
It's not ideal for us to constantly face protesters and harassment. I did try to do a drag story hour with my public library, but it was deemed as too controversial.
What I don't think they understand is you can try and get rid of all of these things, but the fact of the matter is trans individuals have been around since the beginning of time.
In 2023, the Trevor Project surveyed LGBTQ+ youth and found that 1/3 reported poor mental health due to anti-LGBTQ policies. In 2024, 530 bills were introduced in the US, including 11 in Arizona.
Although the amendment removed that specific call out to drag shows and drag performances and replaced it with the term sexually explicit, the intent of the bill is still primarily to target drag shows and drag performances.
Madam Chair, the intent of the bill is to explicitly target, if you want to use that language, sexually explicit drag shows and drag show performers. And again, none of us in here want to regulate drag shows.
While some drag performances may be sexualized, these are isolated and separated from Drag Story Hour, which focuses primarily on reading comprehension. With some proponents for Drag Story Hour arguing that legislators will try to conflate sexually explicit content with the work storytellers do and lean on vague legislation for their own motives.
Having to constantly fight against legislation that does not allow us to be our authentic self, that is a very tiring activity. But once we start to oppress, censor, and marginalize other communities, it's just going to make it easier to oppress the next vulnerable community.
This discrimination is intensifying. The United Nations states that misinformation and hate speech can contaminate our information landscape, threatening social progress. Yet politicians and interest groups continue to use hateful rhetoric and divisive language to gain support, contributing to an environment where real harm follows.
Things like Drag Story Hour and Pride and anything that has to do with that visibility is so important because kids need to see that there are people out there that are like them. Babette was all by herself. She watched Moby playing with her toys and she felt sad. We are not just surviving, but we are thriving. And that life is good despite the stuff that we kind of have to fight against sometimes.
If I stop doing things because I'm scared, those people win. That's the time to do it. And that's when things are important, is when things are scary. When people think of drag, they think of illusion. When I'm out of drag, I look like a pretty normal person, but I do look completely different. I change the shape of my face, like this, to where there is transformation, and I don't look like myself anymore. And Moby and Babette were safe in the arms of both moms. Praise Babette. Good girl, Babette, good girl.
Teaching kids that it's okay to be different, and visibility is good, inclusivity is good, and literacy is good. Literacy, that's all, just reading and reading comprehension. She walked over, laid down next to Moby, and they napped, cuddled together on their comfy pillow. And Moby sighed, welcomed at last. The end.
Hi, I'm Tom McNamara, host of Arizona Illustrated. Thank you for watching this Arizona Illustrated story here on YouTube. And if you like that one, well, here's another story we think you'll like.